think it would be easier for me to do it all at once, if that's okay with the court.
Let's do something for.
Do something. I do if you want me to.
Yeah, let's try to split it up into what he's testified about now, and then we can cover this stuff tomorrow.
Okay.
All right, turn the lights. You do the photographs, or turn the lights back up.
Oh, please turn them back up.
You don't need to stretch long. Do a 24/7 anytime workout.
Good afternoon. Is it, because I know you're with the campus police now, right?
Yes, sir.
Is it Sergeant still, or
Officer?
just Officer Shaw?
Yes, sir.
Officer Shaw, my name is Michael Ray. I'm representing Ms. Farris. Let's find it logical. Okay, let's start here. So, from what I gathered from Mr. Fogus, going over all of your experience, was you're state certified in crime scene investigation, right?
Yes, sir.
You also attended the National Forensic Academy.
Yes, sir.
And at this point, on July the 5th, 2018, you were the lead crime scene investigator at the Purcell Lane house.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, in terms of crime scene investigation, the buck stops with you. Right?
Yes, sir.
So, and then the person above you would have been Lieutenant Ballard.
Correct.
Right. So, the witnesses before you, if I've been yelling at them about things not being done, that's your fault. Fair to say?
Fair to say, yes, sir.
Okay. Now, so let's get into kind of what you did. With the house, because I know you had told me that you were still out at the burn pile around midnight and you found the bullet in the rib around that time, after midnight.
I believe it was after midnight, yes, sir.
All right. Now, we heard from was it Sergeant Westbrook? He's the one that actually noticed the bullet first?
Okay.
Good. Yeah, not okay. Is that correct or not correct?
Well, if he noticed it first, then that's correct.
Okay, well, wouldn't he have notified you if he found it first? I guess here's my question. Who found the bullet in the rib?
I was notified by Investigator Olenek.
Investigator who?
Olenek. Who was
Olenek.
paying attention. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so he told you, and then that's when you would have called Lieutenant Ballard, I'm assuming, or somebody.
Yes, sir.
All right. And that would have been presumably into July the 5th.
Into the 6th, I believe. We were out there on the 5th.
Oh, yeah, you came on the 5th, so it went to the 6th,
Yes.
yes. All right. Okay. And you left at some point because you came back on the 6th.
Yes.
How did, because this is your crime scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
How was the crime scene secured overnight? Because I'm assuming not everybody stayed out there all night long.
That is correct. So my crime scene vehicle stayed out there. The sheriff's office, we stationed deputies at the entry point onto the property with the crime scene log.
Okay, with the crime scene log on 24 hours a day.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, and that would have been done until y'all were done with the house. Now, granted, I know y'all have been out there several other times, including over a year later, right?
Correct.
So, but during that relevant portion of time, law enforcement was there the entire time.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, setting up the grid, and I'm sorry, because of the way your direct was, so just going to kind of jump around, okay? So if you don't understand what I'm asking, just let me know. So you called Gooding to come out just because that's what she does, right? She's an anthropologist.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So she comes out and she's the one that sets up that grid, along with, you and whoever else.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So she would have done that. How long was it from the time you saw the body, made the determination, got the approval, that Dr. Gooding showed up?
Probably about 2.5 hours.
Okay. is it during that period of time, because you testified earlier that the fire was so hot when you got there that you didn't feel comfortable working in it, right?
Correct.
All right. So did it cool off in that 2.5 hours to be a comfortable temperature for you to work in?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What temperature did you let the fire get down to before you started working?
I don't recall if we measured it when I went into it. I know it was comfortable enough that we all made a determination we were going to start working.
Okay. Oh, it was measured by Shane Daniels, right?
Yes, sir.
With Cherokee Fire Investigator?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When you were out at the scene or at the burn pile, you're looking at the remains. Did at any point, did you touch any of the remains? Did you disturb any of the remains?
I did not.
Did any of the other investigators, as far as you know, touch or disturb any of the remains?
From the time I arrived on the scene, no one touched the remains until Dr. Gooding arrived.
Okay, so if Dr. Gooding comes and testifies, and she was like, this is where we found this is where we found this is where we found this, then that is where it was, at least when you got there.
That is correct.
Okay. Have you heard anything about anybody moving anything around prior to you getting there?
I was not made aware of anything.
Okay. I'm just pulling that up for when I need it. You had talked about this citronella smell and that you kept smelling around the burn pile, right?
Yes, sir.
Did anybody else, to your knowledge, ever say that?
I didn't hear anybody say it, no, sir. It
Okay.
was my observation.
Did you put it in your report?
I believe it was in my report.
Okay. You also you did note in your report that Shane Daniels had taken samples from the burn pile.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you know whether or not those were ever tested for any type of accelerant or anything?
I believe they were sent off. Yes, sir.
Okay. Did that come back that you're aware of? The results of that?
I believe no accelerants came back.
Okay. You also, or do you know that Ms. Farris, they tested her hands for accelerants and that she was negative for accelerants? Did you know that?
If it was mentioned to me, then yes, but I know he did his fire investigator duties while at the scene.
Okay. So, best you know, there's no accelerants, right?
Correct.
Correct. All right. Now, well, I'll come back to that. You stated that there was, you observed no blood at the burn pile, correct?
Correct.
And that would be, let me pull this because this is a kind of a tricky picture. So this is actually a photograph. The house is to your back, right?
Yes, sir.
Right. And so going from the house down to the burn pile, it's somewhat sloped, right?
Correct.
So you didn't observe any blood going from the house down to the burn pile, right?
I did not know, sir.
Okay. And you didn't observe any blood anywhere around the burn pile, right?
Correct.
Okay. Number 150. Okay. So that is what you had originally referred to, or some of the investigators referred to as the eraser.
Yes, sir.
That looked like an eraser. All right. When that was taken, did Dr. Gooding or the coroner take that into evidence?
The coroner took the remains into evidence.
Okay, so Dr. Gooding got them from the pit, contained them somehow, and the coroner then took custody of it?
The remains were cataloged in white disaster bags so that the coroner could seal those and take those with her.
Okay. And as far as you know, this projectile was sent off to the crime lab as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Bear with me, this thing scrolls kind of fast. So did, going back to 174, Mr. Fogus had asked you about the tire pattern here in 174, 175, 176, 177. Any imprints or anything done on that? Or did you take any imprints of that, or did you just take photographs of it?
What do you mean by imprints, sir?
I don't know, like if you see Bigfoot walking around, you know, like make a cast of it, so you can compare it to other things later.
No, I did not cast that at the scene.
Okay. Did you do anything else with it other than just take the photographs?
No, sir, because I've got a top-down 1 to 190-degree photograph of it.
Okay, so you didn't need to do anything else with it?
I did not feel at the time I needed to do anything else with it. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Just since it's the order of the photograph, so that'll just make it the least confusing. So this red shirt, I understand you did not find the red shirt, right?
Correct.
All right. Do you know where the red shirt was found?
I know it was in the house, sir.
Okay. You don't know where in the house?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you know where the blood, because this was 190, was your test of the blood? What location on the shirt did you use your test?
You'll go back to the picture with the OB ABFO square. That's where we tested.
Well, this one?
No, sir. Go back one. There. The big stain.
Okay. This stain?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I'm asking you because I don't know. Is that this stain? I'll flip between 186 and 187, okay? Is that the same stain? In the middle of the shirt?
I believe it would be the same stain. Yes, sir.
Okay. So if we go back to the whole shirt, we can get to it. So it's kind of right here, the right hand side, almost directly below the logo. Fair enough?
On the left-hand side, yes, sir.
Okay. And that's what your testimony to this jury is, that tested positive as being blood.
They feel presumptive, yes.
Okay. Field presumptive for
Yes,
blood.
sir.
Okay.
For mammalian blood.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And are you aware that this shirt was sent to the crime lab?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you aware that the test came back for this shirt?
I know they did get test results back.
Okay. Do you have any indication of what those test results were?
I've been through several of them, so I don't recall right off the top of my head. No,
Okay,
sir.
that's fine. We've got those people will come in later. So the next thing with these shoes, I believe then you try to do a test on these shoes and it was negative.
One shoe did test. One shoe did show negative, and one did show positive.
Okay. And one of them was also sent to the crime lab as well, right?
Yes.
Okay. And on stage 209, at the top on the right-hand side of the shoe, that's the spot where you tested?
Yes, the biggest stain. Yes, sir.
Okay. And not putting words in your mouth, but that was sent to the crime lab, right?
The shoes were, yes.
Yeah. But you're probably not been enlightened as to what the results were on that either, were you?
I do know the ones that we tested in the lab did not come back. They came back positive for blood, but not for Mr. Farris. Came back with Mrs. Farris's blood.
Okay. But you don't know which shoe that refers to, right?
The ones in 209.
Right here? This one?
Yes, sir. Those are
Okay.
the ones that we tested in the lab.
Okay, so you tested that, the 209, we'll just call those the blue Nikes. So that had Ms. Ferris's blood on it.
I believe that's what the report said. I was made aware of that.
Okay, you didn't do the testing.
I did the field presumptive testing in our lab, but we sent it down to the crime lab.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Did anybody tell you what the crime lab said about it?
That I believe it came back. It was not Mr. Ferris's blood.
Okay, exactly. Thank you. All right, now this little spot. So I'm going to show you 213. So this little entryway between the front door and going into the dining room. There is that little spot right there. Did you field test that spot specifically?
Yes, because it was a large volume.
Okay, so that is what you wrote in your report. That is stain 1.
Yes.
Okay, so that tested positive for blood.
Yes.
Okay, did you then swab that and send it to the crime lab?
I don't recall if I swabbed it or not. I'm pretty sure I did. Now, whether it went to the crime lab, again, I don't know. I was never asked to complete that process and send it down.
We already established that this is your investigation, right? So who do you got to ask to send evidence to the crime lab?
So I conversate with the case detective.
So it'd be Detective Hayes.
Yes. I
Okay.
would not make assumptions on the directions of his case.
So you would leave it up to him to decide what evidence you test and don't test? While you're actually investigating the crime scene?
The crime scene itself was already investigated. This is follow-up forensics investigation. And so
No, this
we would
is
never-
this testing that you did right here, this spot, states 217, that's on July 5th or 6th.
that was tested at the scene and it field presumptive tested positive for blood.
And then what my question is, because your report says nothing about it, did you swab it, bag it, tag it, and send it off to the crime lab?
If it is not in my report, then I did not swap it, nor did I collect it.
Okay. So if it wasn't swabbed and sent to the crime lab, we have no idea whose blood that supposedly is, or even if it is actual human blood.
Correct.
Now, you also had talked about with Mr. Fogus, there was another stain, you called that stain 3, and it was negative, correct?
Yes, sir.
Then there was also what you had reported being stains 2 and 4, but they were too small for testing.
Correct.
Okay. All right. 232. Because I was just confused about this. So, states 232, the ultraviolet shirt. This is still the red shirt, just under ultraviolet light.
Yes, sir.
Let me see if there's that a better explanation. So 131 shows the shirt, the red shirt, and then that's it under the ultraviolet light, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now you were talking with Mr. Fogus that blood is the only thing, and I'm maybe paraphrasing. Blood is the only thing that will glow brown under ultraviolet light. Is that what you meant?
No, it doesn't fluoresce. I've not found where blood fluoresces under ultraviolet light.
So blood doesn't fluoresce under ultraviolet light.
Correct.
Okay. So presumably, what I'm assuming what you're implying is that it's your belief that some of these other spots were potentially blood.
They could potentially be, yes.
Okay. So I'm assuming when you put this light on this shirt, you would then pull out those handy little, what do you call them? OB TIS kits? The OB TIS?
The hexagon OBTIS kits.
Yeah, okay. So you'd have pulled out one of those and tested those spots, right?
No, sir.
Okay. You just did it on that one little spot where we had previously identified kind of in the middle of the shirt.
Correct.
Okay. So any of these other spots you didn't test, and you're not familiar with what, if anything, came back from the crime lab?
We did not test those for field presumptive positive or negative testing in our lab. It's a documentation, and then if it's sent off to the lab, we let the crime lab do their testing on it.
Okay. And but you don't know what the crime lab testing was?
Correct.
Okay. Now, let's go to the RTV. Now, a lot of the RTV stuff, this photograph, this is when you brought it over to the jail, right? Which you call it your lab, but your lab's at the jail?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is brought over to the lab. You actually did a lot of the Blue Star testing actually at the residence, right?
Lieutenant Stewart did get samples out there for us.
Okay. Well, I just thought Lieutenant Stewart just took the photographs that you were doing the actual Blue Star.
Not at the house. All my Blue Star was done here at the lab.
Okay. Do you know who did any Blue Star at the house? If anybody.
If anybody, it was the GBI.
Okay. Let me ask you this, just while, because I know you had to go up the chain of command to, I'm assuming, hire Dr. Gooding to come out here to remove the remains, right? Like you had to call Ballard, Ballard had to call Captain Pinion, and Captain Pinion had to give the okay, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And somebody, I'm not 100% sure, I don't know if it was you or was it Lieutenant Ballard, made the decision to call out the GBI, Lane of Coffee. Who made that call?
Lieutenant Clark.
Lieutenant Clark. Right. What was Lieutenant Clark's role in this?
He was the persons unit lieutenant. So he would have been over.
You kind of got a deep voice, so a little louder.
I'm sorry, he was the persons unit commander.
The persons unit?
Crimes against persons.
Oh, crimes. Okay, crimes against person. So he was that commander. So he made the call to call out the Lane of Coffee.
Well, it had to start with him because it was done outside of my purview.
Okay, so he's over here, and him or somebody made that decision.
Yes, sir.
They didn't ask you.
Correct.
Right. Even though you're the lead crime scene guy.
Correct.
Correct. All right. How many crime scenes? I know you had said you'd worked in Gwinnett and stuff like that. How many of these investigations, larger investigations, had you done being at Cherokee?
Probably a dozen or so. Large-scale investigations to this magnitude.
Yeah, that's what I'm not talking about the little things. Have you seen the sheriff's office call out the GBI before?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you seen the sheriff's office call out the GBI to essentially conduct the investigation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you know why the GBI was not called in to conduct this investigation?
Because we could do our own.
Okay. Who makes that decision? And if you don't know, you don't know. I understand if that's above your pay grade, but to the best of your knowledge, who makes that decision?
To call the GBI?
Yeah.
Well, that would come from the command staff.
The command staff?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So, jumping into the RTV. With that, hold on, I lost my spot. You had done some swabs on the RTV, right? Especially the L2 shifter. That was at least one swab that you had done. We actually don't have, there's no photographs of the R2 shifter, at least that are in evidence. So, Mr. Fogus had put up what is 266. All right, and I'm assuming here in the top left-hand corner on the gate of the Kubota, that's where you're saying is maybe blood.
Yes,
So
sir.
that's what Blue Star is telling you, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm assuming, yet again, immediately you see that, you got to swab it to send it off to the crime line, right?
No, sir.
Okay. Why?
Because those two particular little marks were not large enough stains to collect a sample. We saw the chemiluminescence over the entire, we sprayed the entire tailgate area.
Yeah.
Those were the only, actually there's a little third little dot right there.
Yeah, right here. Well, why not take you Q-tip, long Q-tip, rub it on there, and see if you can get a DNA and send it off.
Because we did not at that time.
Okay, so essentially we may have blood, but we don't know, right?
Correct.
Now that would be the same, Mr. Fogus has shown you right here, a little bit of this. You didn't swab this, you didn't try to collect it to send it off to see about that, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now what about, because there's no photographs and there's nothing in your report, what about the actual bed of the RTV? There's no indication there was any testing done in that, right? You didn't do any testing in that.
We did not.
Okay. You essentially just sprayed the Blue Star around the bed, correct?
Well, we have it. It goes into the bed as well.
Okay. You didn't see any blood in there.
We did not get any chemiluminescence reaction.
Okay. From the bed of the RTV, just so the record's clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, this tractor. Now, when you were doing this, because your report doesn't, at least your initial report that I have doesn't talk about getting super detailed. It's not a bad. I'm not saying you wrote a bad report. It's not a bad. It's just not as detailed. So, like with this tractor, and so I mean, you're saying that this is a little bit of blood, or could be blood on the top of the tractor. When did y'all do this testing at the jail?
I believe this was done several days after we finished our work at the actual house.
Okay. So this is, y'all had to load up the tractor in the RTV, haul it over to the jail, and keep it there before, and then if you just tested it a couple days later.
Well, I think we also had to get search warrants to do our processing, I believe.
Okay. And yet again with this wasn't swabbed and collected and sent to the crime lab for identification, correct?
Correct.
Judge, I've got probably about another maybe another 10 minutes or so. That's whatever you want to do. The towel that was collected. You just did the testing on this towel. You didn't locate the towel, correct?
Well, I mean, it was in the back of the RTV, but yes, we tested it.
Okay. And it's what your statement is that this is blood. Or is that it's presumptive for blood because of Blue Star? Okay. Now, did this go to the crime lab? This towel?
I don't know if it did or not.
Okay. Are you aware of any towels and hand or washcloths, I guess, they actually are, towels and washcloths that did make it to the crime lab?
No, sir.
Okay. If the crime lab tested a towel that the state believed had blood on it, it's a fairly good assumption that's the towel, isn't it?
We'll go with fairly good assumption, yes, sir.
Okay. Now this changing things. So how come, like you got the states 268s just on the you can't see it on the TV screen, but I can on a computer monitor. I can see that it's the towel. Okay, so and then you change the settings and stuff so that you can actually see the Blue Star, right?
Yes, sir.
So all right. Now why do you have to do that on this, but you didn't have to do that on the tractor?
We had enough ambient light in the evidence bay. There's a single emergency light that must remain illuminated in our evidence bay.
Mm-hmm.
That provided enough light for the camera to capture the chemiluminescence. When we did the towels in the lab, we can turn off all our lights. And so we were trying to adjust our cameras out to pick up the reaction and see the outline of the towel.
I'm confused. I thought you needed total darkness to be able to see Blue Star. Okay. If I sprayed it right here on the table, and let's just, there's blood there, would I see it light up?
Well, if there's blood on the table, we wouldn't need to use the Blue Star.
Okay, fine. There's blood on the table. I wiped it off. Now I spray the Blue Star on there.
It would need to be dark in here to see the chemoluminescence, and we would use the ambient light in order to adjust the camera out to take the picture. You have
Okay,
to
so
kinda use it
basically
two and two.
you have to get the light setting to a certain point to allow you to be able to see it. But it's not total darkness.
Correct.
Okay.
We're shooting on full manual functions on our camera.
Okay, so why don't you, for some of those towel photographs, instead of manipulating the contrast and the brightness of the photograph, just take it somewhere so you can actually take a proper photograph?
Because if you keep reapplying Blue Star, you'll lose the reaction. And so we have to try our best in our reaction time, because if you keep saturating the towel, you're not going to get a reaction at that point.
Well, wouldn't it be a smart idea to do the testing the first time in a place where you know you have the proper light?
We did in our lab.
I mean, obviously not if you got to sit there and change the settings on the photograph to be able to see it. And you don't need to do it on all of them.
Yeah, and what we did is acceptable.
I didn't ask you if it was acceptable. I
Moving
mean,
and
let's
changing
make it
it.
easy.
It did.
Well, no, because it's not in a written. You have manipulated the photograph by taking out what it actually is so you can see something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. You didn't have to do that with the tractor because the tractor is in a proper spot to be able to see what you're trying to see, right? It has enough light to be able to see it.
Yes.
Okay, but you're testing the towel in a place that you're intentionally testing it there, and you can move it. I mean, it's a towel. You can pick it up, move it wherever you want to, and you can move it somewhere else so you would not have to manipulate the photograph. Correct.
No, I could see the reaction in my camera, and I could see it in my lab.
But we just can't see it in any of your non-manipulated photographs. Right? Like 268. Do you see any luminescence?
I do.
Okay. Judge, if we can, I'd like to stop there. I don't want to let him go just yet, so I may come back tomorrow on cross, if that's all right.
All right. All right, anything else?
All right, we'll break for now. Same instructions I gave you yesterday. Let's get here